welcome to another version of House of Wisdom's Lightest and Best, where we look at a variety of offerings, the lightest ones, from a variety of manufacturers. And today we have a treat. We have the Helix Nano from Guardian Tactical, and this is a beautiful tactical style knife. If you're looking at something like in the tactical lines, this is something that you certainly want to consider. Guardian Tactical is a knife company based in Pennsylvania. The Helix Nano is a diminutive version of the Helix. The Helix has a 4-inch blade, a 9-inch overall length, and weighs 5.7 ounces. The Helix Nano only weighs 3.74 ounces. It's a full 2 ounces lighter. The Helix has a subframe lock, and I'm going to show you a picture of it. The Nano has a subframe lock. As you can tell, the carbon fiber is milled out and the liner lock goes there. With the Helix, it's just a subframe lock, which means that instead of just this little part poking out here, part of the embedded liner, the lock extends the whole length of the handle. So that's one of the differences in addition to size in the Helix and the Helix Nano. On the Helix Nano, we'll talk about specifications. The blade length is 3.125 inches. The handle length is 4.4 inches. The total knife length is 7.625 inches and has a weight of 3.74 ounces. I have a variety of knives to compare the knife against. We'll start with the Spyderco Kiwi, which is a little smaller, and the Tashi-Baruch Rowdy, which is larger. Then the Rockstead Heisen, which is a little smaller. And we have the Curtis F3, which is a little larger. And we have a Sabenza Small by Chris Reeve, which is a little smaller. Next we have the Southern Grind Spider Monkey, which is approximately the same size. We have a Browse Bionic 2, which is a little smaller. And lastly, we have the Cody Etzler knife, which is a little smaller. So those are some comparisons. The blade of the Nano is made of CPM 154, which is a high-grade powdered steel. It has a compound grind. The base of the knife is a flat grind, and the distal part of the blade is a hollow grind, so the tip has a sharper, narrower bevel than the base of the knife. So you can do your thick, heavy cutting back at the base and your finer, more delicate slicing on the tip. The finish is called a gunmetal finish by the manufacturer. If this were a sink faucet, you would probably call it brushed nickel. I chose it because I thought it was the most interesting finish, and not a lot of knives have this particular finish. The finish is also available in black tactical, two-tone black, bead blasted, stone washed, and dark stone washed. The knife also has not only a sharpening ricasso but a forward finger choil, so you can choke up on it to do some close work. And you'll notice that it has 3 oval cuts, which is part of its tactical theme of increasing lengths. And they take some weight off the blade and they give it that tactical vibe. The method of deployment for the knife is by flipper, and as you can tell, it has a well-designed flipper tab, and your thumb can get good purchase on it. It is neutral to forward to the pivot, and it's got a very good detent. It just flies out of there. In addition, it has a thumb stud if you're a thumb stud person, and you can deploy it. The thumb stud also acts as a thumb lug and locks against the carbon fiber scales, but it doesn't only rely on that to stop the blade. It has a stop pin that it uses to stop the knife both in the open position and in the closed position. The handle is made of carbon fiber, and as you can tell, there's a lot of work and milling into this handle. The sides are chamfered, so it has more of a rounded profile to give you more of a baseball bat grip. And then there's also fullers that are cut to give you good purchase and a lot of traction. Also, it has a back spacer, which is non-magnetic. Here's a magnet and there's no attraction there. I assume that it's aluminum, although it may be titanium. It looks aluminum. The clip is steel. There's attraction there to the clip. So on the back spacer, it has some jimping there for a good purchase for your reverse grip. Also integrated into the back spacer is a lanyard with a glass breaker. So this is a knife that has great ergonomics and a lot of milling and work done on the handle. The pivot on the knife is a 16 ball bearing system. It has a proprietary pivot, as you can tell. The pivot tool is sold by switchbladekits.com for only $15, and the tool also works on the Ratwork knives pivot. So you can take the pivot apart. As you know, I'm not a fan of a proprietary pivot. I like just Torx bits, but the pivot tool is only $15. It's just an inconvenience that you have to order it. The lock, as I've mentioned, is by Subliner Lock. And what Subliner Lock means is that there is a milled embedded area in the handle that the liner fits into. And on this particular one, it juts out here so you can easily get it like that. Other knives use a subliner lock design. I'm going to give you an example of the Browse Bionic 2. In the Bionic 2, it has the same thing. There's a milled area in the aluminum in this instance where the liner lock fits into, so it fits flush, and you can tell when I open the blade it kind of pops out to make the liner. The knives are a little different that in the Browse blade it has this reptilian spine artistic vibe, and they wanted to maintain that on both sides so they'd interrupt it by making a cutout. But there is some jimping that's a little proud that you can easily get it to disengage the knife. On the other knife, on the Helix Nano, they actually let the part that interfaces with the blade tang come out, and that's part of the tactical vibe. You have 2 screws here, 2 screws there, and there's a lot of busyness, a lot of screws. As you can tell, the back spacer is held on very securely with 4 screws on both sides, 8 screws in total, so it's a very solid tactical style knife, and I really like it a lot. Let me get the Bionic 2 out of the way here. The pocket clip is embedded. They have a milled out area and it's embedded and it's secured with 2 screws. You really only need 1 screw when you do that, but they wanted it extra secure. Plus, it matches the theme of the 2 screws holding the over travel stop and the steel interface liner locks so that you don't get any blade stick with that. Also, the handle functions as a over travel stop. But anyway, they're secured with 2 screws, and there's plenty of ramp. The clip, as I've mentioned, is made out of steel, and there's no hot spots at all whenever you grip the knife. Well, let's talk about the ergonomics, and I have talked about a little bit. On this particular knife, there is a milled out area for every single one of your fingers, so each finger has its own little place in the world. And as I've mentioned, because it's chamfered, it has more of this rounded profile, and then it has a lot of texturing that's milled so you can get a really good grip. And there are grip alternatives. You have a forward finger choil, and you can choke up on it with the posterior jimping on the spine to do some close work if you wanted to too. So there are a lot of opportunities. Plus the handle is relatively long. It's 4.4 inches, so with my hand, I have a lot of handle left over, so even people with large hands, this knife that's referred to as a nano knife has a really good sized handle. And the action is very smooth. It flies open and it shuts with just a little bit of shaking. It is a very well put together knife. I'll talk a little bit about the signage too. There is a lot of signage on the knife. Here on the blade you can tell the model number, the Helix Nano, the birth date of the knife. In this case, it was June of 2017, where it's made, the United States of America, the type of steel, CPM 154. And then on the clip, it is the manufacturer, which is Guardian Tactical, and then it has the lot number. This is the 568th knife made in this configuration. So there are 6 different items used on signage for this knife. So what do I think about the Guardian Tactical Helix Nano? I really like this knife. Are there opportunities for improvements? I think so. First of all, I think we could have used a Torx bit rather than the proprietary pivots. I know a lot of manufacturers use them, and the pivot tool in this case is only $15. It's just a nuisance to have to buy a second item to be able to disassemble and clean your knife. The other thing I would improve is I think that 6 item is a little bit too much signage on a knife. This, I just mentioned the 6 different things that are posted on this knife. I just want to point out a couple of knives that do it a little bit better. The Tashi Barucha Rowdy just has one thing. It has the maker's mark on it with the Tashi Barucha's design, and that is the only signage on the entire knife. And the Tashi Barucha's maker's mark is really tastefully done, has that Japanese vibe to it. I even like it on the knife. Another knife that I want to applaud for its lack of billboarding is the Cody Etzler Equalizer. This knife is completely sterile on the outside surface. And on the inside of the scale, he has written in there, and you can't even really see it, it says Etzler. And that's all the signage. It's on the inside of the handle scale, but the rest of the knife is just completely sterile, and it is one of my favorite knives, and that's part of why. But what do I like about the knife? First of all, this part here, made in the USA. This is a completely made in the USA in Pennsylvania, and I know a lot of you guys out there like your knives made in the USA. And it has a high quality of materials. The handle is a beautiful carbon fiber, both scales. The steel is a powdered metal, CPM 154, and it's got a compound grind. It has a flat grind here and then a hollow ground here, and it's interesting. And it has these milled out, nested, embedded subliner locks with a steel insert on the blade tang. Very well designed. And the ergonomics of the knife are great. The handle is big enough to accommodate any size hand, even though it's called the Nano, which would make you think that is very small. It's just the smallest, lightest knife that this particular company, Guardian Tactical, makes. So, if you're looking for an EDC size knife that's light, tactical in orientation, that's made in the USA, made of quality materials, and has great ergonomics, I think the Guardian Tactical Helix Nano may be the knife for you. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you on the next House of Wisdom Lightest and Best Knife video.